Hi folks, how you doing? WrestleTrueResults303.com. Check out the website, link in the description box. Mind, body, spirit, fitness. Put in the healing, back in health. Coming at you today with a video on communication, conversations. Right? I just read a book called Difficult Conversations. I'm going to make some videos on it, but I already had this one in the bank. Been marinating on it for a little bit. Today's the day. The best way to answer any question. Right? We're always going to be thrown oddball questions, and sometimes we don't know how to answer them. Sometimes we do, but there's one thing that we can do or say that's going to give us the ability to answer these questions better. All right, and what is that? That's answer a question with a question, right? That's what we need to learn how to do. Answer a question with a question. And not a stupid question, right? I was talking with my cousin who was on a vacation, and he met some girl, some lady, and he said something about talking with this lady, and he said, she was so annoying and she was stupid. And she was talking about how she keeps her job, and I can't remember what the whole discussion was about when he was explaining it to me, but he had talked about how she was talking about answering a question with a question, and it would be somebody would ask her like, well, how do you create a formula on Excel spreadsheet? And she's like, I don't know, tell me how you do. And that's not what we're talking about. So one of the main reasons why I came up with this concept for the video was reading the Bible, of course. And it was always because Jesus answered a question majority of the time with a question. It's strange, right? And I wish I would have looked at my Bible. I didn't, but I got one here in my head that I can think of real quick before I started the camera. And it was going to be when the Pharisees came to him about paying taxes. Should you pay taxes? The first thing out of Jesus' mouth was, well, whose picture's on the coin? And they brought him, or he said, bring me a coin. Whose picture is this? And then they said, Caesar. And he says, well, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Give to God what is God's. Right? So he answered it with a question. So it's picking a question that's going to give you more information on the topic. That's what we need to do. It's a question that's going to give you more information, kind of like when they talk about, you learn this in middle school, elementary school, a good interview, the questions you ask, who, what, when, where, why, and how, right? Who, what, when, where, why, how. The 5 W's is usually what they call it with the H. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Because if you don't have enough information about the topic, how can you ask a question? Or how can you answer the question? You need to be able to understand the question completely. Same thing like when we'll go back to Jesus, when the Pharisees asked him, is it good to do good works on the Sabbath or something like that? And that's when he said, well, for those of you who have a goat, if he falls into a pit, would you not help him? Would you not help your goat out, or your cow, or whatever it was? Right? And they were just like, yes, of course I would. Yes, I would help him out. So yes, he's like, well, that's doing a good deed on the Sabbath, right? So it's either asking a question that kind of contradicts what they're saying or adds to what they're saying, or just you need to be able to get more information, kind of like with the coin when Jesus said, bring me the coin. What's on this coin? Who is this? Well, yeah, then it's his. He's the one who made it, right? God created us, so we give God to us. If we work to make money and that government gave you money, then hey, you give back to the government whatever they expect. So it's asking the right question, right? It's kind of like an iRobot when the doctor killed himself, and then they leave that little disc, and Will Smith has to sit there and ask the question, and he's like, that is the wrong question. That is the wrong question. Or you are asking the wrong question or something like that. Then he asks the right question. He's like, now that's the right question, right? So you got to be asking the correct question. And once again, it's going to be all experimental, And when you talk about these things, you're going to come into some bumps on the road. You're going to say some wrong things, and you might offend somebody, but you have to be able to engage and be willing to talk about these things if you want to see it. I just had something else about it that I lost in there. I should have thrown it in, but it would have been out of place. So yeah, I think that's a good way to go. just because you need to be able to gather more information. So, I hope that helps you. And once again, it's always going to be practice and repetition, like I said. And you've got to be able to practice going into anything, right? You can't just go into things not knowing what's going on, right? So once again, it's there it was. I had to ramble there for a second to get it, And it's the same thing when we talk about Christianity, Catholicism. One thing they teach Catholics when you go into apologetics, which is just explaining the Catholic faith. For those who don't know what apologetics is, it's just learning to explain the faith for people that are maybe confused about it, especially with Catholicism, because it's so deep and tradition rooted. Never be afraid to say, I don't know, right? If they ask you a question, I don't know, I'll get back to you, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Nowadays, it's with all this information age, it's considered a bad thing if you don't know the answer to something. To tell you the truth, I looked up about 10 different things this week alone. And right now, I don't remember them. That's the funny thing. They say we're in this information age where we can get knowledge at the drop of a dime, but yet we know nothing. Right? So yes, never be afraid to say, I do not know. I will get back to you. Just make sure you get back to them. Don't ever go back to them again. Hey, you might find out that whatever you thought of or the question that they asked went against what you were trying to explain, but hey, come back to them and say, hey, I was wrong. You were right. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being wrong in today's world. We're always going to be wrong. I do plenty of things wrong every day. The question, the truth of it is you need to be able to recognize your faults so you can grow and become a better person. So there's nothing wrong with being wrong. There's nothing wrong with not knowing the answer. Just make sure that you find the answer, whether it's with what you agree or if it disagrees with your process of thinking, right? So answering a question with a question is a great way, because you need to be able to understand the person, where they're coming from, and gather more information about the topic, especially if it's something that you are unfamiliar with. So always answer a question with a question, because you never know what you're missing link, right? So hope that helps. Subscribe to the channel. Share and like these videos.